Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's late night tonight with your hosts, Matt and Kat. Hey, everybody. It's me, Matt. Again.
Welcome to Late Night Tonight.
Hey, it's late. It's night. It's tonight. Put those three together and you've got Late Night Tonight, which is quickly turning out to be our retrospective of our family shows. Roseanne, Desperate Housewives. Tonight we're gonna get into Lost. We even covered a little bit about what we're watching now. You know, we talked a little bit about The Bear. We talked a bit about Chucky the series.
Yeah.
All of that you can find in
And The Bear got picked up for a third season now.
Well, look at them.
It did.
They're kicking
and they
butt.
won a buttload of awards too.
Yeah.
They did.
I mean, they're doing well. They're doing well for themselves. Yeah. They are an artistic and popular, or artistic masterpiece and a popular show, and people are just absolutely loving it.
You know, I saw this somewhere else, but I agree with what I saw. The lead of The Bear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember his name. Okay.
But
I loved him in Shameless.
Yeah.
And I love him in The Bear. I love him in both.
Mm-hmm.
But he would have been first pick for it. And I understand they probably weren't thinking of a likeness of Gene Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
But for the Wonka movie that was just made,
yeah,
that young man should have been Wonka. He looks like Gene Wilder.
I mean,
young.
if we go basically only on aesthetics alone, absolutely, he looks like he could be Gene Wilder's grandson.
Right?
Yeah,
he does.
His name is Jeremy Allen White, and he is not the grandson of Gene Wilder.
No, I didn't think so. But he does have a likeness to Gene
Wilder.
I
totally understand what you're saying.
Young Gene Wilder.
They went the Timothy Chalamet route. They went for the young stud in Hollywood or whatever the heck it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they went with. Whatever. Who cares? Nothing's ever going to beat or compare that movie to the original one. Every attempt that they've done to do a Wonka thing just has not been as good as that original one from forever and a half ago.
But I tell you what, from the first one, every 4-year-old that ever watched that train scene in the freaking tunnel.
Oh gosh, everybody's freaked out
damaged.
by that. Nobody knows where we are going.
Yes.
Oh man, even to this day, it still gives me the willies. I totally get it. Hey, if you're out there and you don't F with that scene, as the kids say, then it's totally all right. You have my personal Matthew permission here on 10th Floor Podcast Network to say do that. Be freaked out by that tunnel scene, because I am. No shame. Don't feel bad about it at all. At all. Feel your feelings. Have your emotions. Know it creeps you out and avoid it.
Oh, there are certain things creep me out too.
Well, hey, you know, life is creepy sometimes.
It can be.
Oh gosh. Hey, but you know, we're gathered around here today around the campfire on a beach on a secluded desert island in the South Pacific, maybe somewhere near Fiji.
Maybe.
Trying to keep warm in the warm night. Trying to keep the bugs away then. I don't know exactly what it is, but hey, okay, so Lost. Let's dive into it. All right, there's so much to cover when it comes to this show. We can't waste any time.
Mm-hmm.
It is a deep, convoluted, but still understandable series and sequence of narratively strung together events that made a TV show.
I love Lost. It was confusing as all get out. But I loved it.
Hey, so like I said, this is turning into one of the retrospectives of like the family shows, which means that this was something that we watched weekly together as a unit. It was something we put on. I believe it was on Sundays. What is it about Sundays? Oh no, it was Thursdays. It was Thursday.
I don't
Wednesdays?
remember.
I don't know. It was some day of the week.
I don't think it was a weekend. I don't think
I don't think it was a weekend either.
I think it was a Thursday night or something.
A Wednesday or a Thursday. It was in the week. It was on one of the popular days. You know, the days where people used to go watch TV, or it was all on demand.
ABC as well, right?
Yes, it was ABC show.
So it wasn't on Friday.
That's for sure. Certainly wasn't on Fridays, no. So it's Wednesday or Thursday, whatever, who cares? It doesn't really matter the day of the week that it was on because it hasn't been on or new in ages.
Long time.
Yeah, this show ended in like 2008.
Gosh, we were still in Union City.
We were 100% still in Union City. I definitely remember because you and Dad weren't home for the big finale of the show, the last episode. You guys weren't home. You were off doing something. I don't remember what it is. I don't remember where you were, but you weren't home. But I threw a Lost party anyway.
I don't remember that.
I invited my little nerdy friends,
Mm-hmm.
and none of them watched Lost. Just me. Just me.
And they came anyway?
But hey, you know, I had good friends who liked me, right? So I had a couple of people show up to come. It was like Melissa Sessions and William. I mean, it was like, you know, the people who would come to that thing. But because Lost was so convoluted and complex, they always had big retrospectives that they did before a new season started, before they went into the finale. Sometime in the mid-season break, they also gave you a big update because the audience needed it to keep everything straight.
They had to.
We really needed to be reminded of everything that went on.
Because that show did this.
Yeah. So it wasn't,
Didn't
you know, I mean, so the stuff on the island was told linearly, but then like when it came to character development, that was all through flashbacks, things that happened in their life before they were marooned. Oh boy. But you guys weren't home. It was definitely Union City. I threw a party. They did a retrospective. They got the education that they needed to watch the finale and had a boring time because they were not emotionally invested at all. But I appreciated their willingness to be there. But you know, to try to summarize the plot for those who may not know, I'm going to do it the best I can. A bunch of normal folks are on an airplane that crashes on a desert island. And as it turns out, this island isn't what you would expect. Not only are they away from society, but people who were sick when they crashed are now not sick.
Yes.
A character who had cancer was completely healed. One who couldn't walk now could.
Yes.
And those are just two examples.
Yeah.
They encountered a mysterious monster seemingly made of smoke.
Remember how the trees would bend over when they first got there, and they look over into the jungle, and the trees.
Oh yeah, the tree. So yeah, they hear all the shaking in the pilot, and the trees shake and they move and the birds fly away, and they're like, "Oh my god, what is that?"
They probably thought it was Bigfoot or something.
Yeah, we didn't know. Nobody knew. Nobody
No
knew.
one knew.
I couldn't figure it out. I wasn't going to try to figure it out because there wasn't enough information yet, but I was engaged and I was ready to learn more. You know, early on, they find out that they're not alone on the island. There are other people there. And before long, they are wrapped in a grand adventure that includes time traveling, the meaning of life, the source of life itself, an epic battle between good and evil, and all of these people colliding with their fate and destiny. It got real deep. You wouldn't expect where the show went based off of just the first season, I don't think.
No, because I don't think the producers or the writers knew either, really.
This is a masterclass in figuring it out as you go along. And they used one of my favorite writers' tools out there, which was, we'll just answer that later. Let's put this here and we'll figure out how it connects when we get there. Don't worry about it now.
Doesn't matter.
So when it came to like, you know, reaching into like before to try to connect these things that they had set up with no payout in mind into what's going on now, I was sold. I was totally sold. I found it to be totally logical. A lot of people didn't. But I've also got a dorky sci-fi fantasy mind, and so there's a lot of things that I'm willing to just accept as fact without questioning it.
Yeah.
like why can you time travel on the island?
I'm sure you were able to watch it. You were able to watch it with a certain amount of freedom that I wasn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, because when it comes to like I just said, when it comes to like, well, why can you time travel on the island? People are like, why do you need, why? How is this possible? What is the deep scientific way that this happens? And the answer is, it happens. And there just has to be an element of just accepting the fact that this thing does a kooky thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think that's normal for like sci-fi and fantasy. You know, you come across some sort of ancient artifact with a magic power. Just accept that it is what it is. Some sort of
Mhm.
piece of technology that can teleport you from the ship to the planet. And yeah, I
But
mean, who
it
needs
was
to
a
know?
different kind of sci-fi than
It was. It was. It was.
what
It
else
was.
was on TV at the time.
It was more. I would say that it leaned far more fantasy, but it was like a modern fantasy. You know, it didn't
Hmm.
have like elves and dwarves in it or anything, but it certainly had like demigods and you know
Hmm.
fate and collision and destiny
Yeah,
and you know a preordained path and all sorts of different things that lend to like modern day spirituality and meaning of life stuff really.
it did.
Yeah, and you never would have guessed. I mean, there was elements here and there that they sprinkled into that first season. You know, when they're trying to figure out where they are, what they're doing, going through all that stuff. I remember one of the characters, John Locke, very popular character, came across a backgammon set, and he was just analyzing, talking, waxing philosophic about the dark
Hmm.
pieces and the light pieces and how they constantly battle against each other for supremacy and blah blah baloney. Uh, but it turned out to be a metaphor of the entire show the whole time.
Hmm.
We had some really popular pop culture icon characters at a certain point in those early 2000s as well. When it came to the really the seven lead main characters that we followed throughout the entire, if not the vast majority of the series. When it comes down to it, you cannot argue that Jack Shepard, as played by Matthew Fox, is his name,
Hmm.
was the de facto lead of the show. He was the central
Was
character, the one where
absolutely.
most of the plot lines flowed through him. Most of the relationships were influenced by the decisions that he made. And by the end, we find out just how special he is.
Yeah, he was at the end. He was the most special.
The most special. He was the obvious choice, but the right one the whole time. Oh, spoiler alert, by the way. Spoilers galore, I'm sure, once we get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. So Jack was the de facto lead, and we had some very close secondary leads right behind him in Kate and Sawyer.
Yeah,
You know, if Jack was Kirk, then Kate and Sawyer was Spock and McCoy. You know,
yeah.
and their love triangle was something that kind of was present through most of the show. Or at least the care that Sawyer and Jack had for Kate was something that was a driving force for both of those characters throughout.
I think Kate was the closest to Sawyer when they were being held captive,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
right? When they were in the
In the polar bear
makeshift
cages.
cells. Yes.
Another one of the big first things that they come across, which inspires one of the most famous lines that lasts until today, is spoken by Charlie on the show, played by Dominic Monaghan. He goes, "Guys, where are we?" So they're you know they're trying to find this radio signal so they can make a distress call, and this polar bear comes charging out of nowhere. Sawyer has to shoot the thing, and then Charlie's looking around going, we're on a tropical island and you just got assaulted by a polar bear. Where the heck are we?
Hmm.
And boy, oh boy, do we never find out really.
It's crazy.
It's a moving
It was a
island.
crazy show.
It's a crazy show. It's a crazy show.
Crazy show. But I remember, oh my gosh, as a family, we couldn't wait for the next stupid
I know,
episode.
right? They were so good at just bringing you back every single week. Well, you know, because they
Good.
lightly answered some questions, they presented new ones, told a very exciting story throughout that you really wanted to see what was going to happen next. What was the next big revelation? How was this going to unfold? And what were these characters going to put themselves through and relate to one another? You know, I think Lost really excelled in creating some very deep and interesting characters that you really wanted to take the ride with. I'm with it. I'm with it. Rounding out the leads of the show are four more characters. We
Hmm.
got Sun and Jen,
Yes.
Saeed Hurley, actually five more characters, and Ben.
Yeah. Ben
Ben
is a big deal.
Ben's a big deal, because I was writing down like who were the ones that we followed the whole time, Sunjin, Kate, Jack, Hurley, Saeed, and Ben.
Hmm.
He
In the
wasn't in.
early part, right?
Yeah, he wasn't in that first season, but he was definitely in the second and beyond.
Hmm.
And he got
Hmm.
point of view and perspective and flashbacks, and he was definitely he was a lead character throughout the
And
back half of the
you
show.
and another super big part of the show too. Who'd they find in the bottom of the hatch? Who was putting in those numbers in the beginning?
Desmond.
Desmond. Exactly.
Oh yes. Oh, yeah. I love you, Penny. Always have.
How long was he down there putting in those numbers
Oh
before
gosh, a
those
couple of
folks
years.
got there?
Couple of years.
A couple of years.
Oh yeah, a couple of years.
Hatch. In the hatch.
A couple of years down in the hatch. So they crash on the island. All of this mystery, all of this magic, all of this craziness, and the adventure unfolds. But I promised we would get into some questions and some answers, and I think this is a great thing to start because, other than the smoke monster, other than the polar bear, other than clearly we are not alone on this island, says John Locke. We also had this mysterious hatch that he and Boone, played by Ian Somerhalder, had come across. Mr. Bright Eyes Ian Somerhalder. Them big blues.
And they had to back themselves down that hatch.
So they tried every single way that they could to try to open this hatch. They tried to blow it up, which was ultimately the thing that worked. But they tried they tried a trebuchet. They tried all kinds of sticks, rocks. I think even Locke tried to shoot it at some point, and it still didn't work. Still didn't work. Oh my gosh, Ma, the layers of this show. Okay, so this hatch, big mystery. This hatch leads to our first major character death of the show, and that is something that Lost really stuck with, which was Yo Leeds might only be here for a little while.
Mm-hmm. They killed off a lot of people throughout all, actually.
Oh, absolutely.
A ton.
Oh, definitely. They killed so the the first death was somebody, some extra that drowned in the ocean. And they're like, oh gosh, hey everybody, be careful out there, okay? It's dangerous here. No, actually, let me take that back. The pilot got eaten by the smoke monster.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he?
He sure did. He got sucked out of that cockpit. I wish I had clips and stuff to show people, but I don't. Oh gosh. So what is the smoke monster? What we use?
I don't know.
You don't know. All right.
I don't know.
All right. All right. We're just gonna dive into the deep end of the show here. We get introduced to the smoke monster in the first season and in the final
Very first season.
Very first season, very first episode.
Too.
Yeah. Like I said, he sucks that cockpit sucks that pilot right out of the cockpit. So, it's right away that we meet this monster and we have no idea what it is. It doesn't have legs. It doesn't have a mouth. It's just a column of smoke.
Yep.
Oh, goodness. But what is it? It was a person.
It was what?
It was a person.
It was a person.
It was a person. It was a shape-shifting person.
Well, man.
It was the Man in Black.
Oh.
Yeah. See, look at that. Dove right into the deep end there. What was the smoke monster? Smoke monster was a person, the Man in Black the whole time. So he was the embodiment of badness, of evil, the antithesis of life. He was the smoke monster, or was he the shadow monster?
So the smoke monster was evil or negative.
Yes, he was
and
negativity
the light
personified.
And the light in the stream
was life itself.
Yes.
Life itself. So at the heart of the island, we have this glowing light, which is a metaphysical representation of the light that everybody carries within them, essentially. The spark of life, the essence of being. And it's housed on this magic island. Why is it housed on this magic island? Because it's got to be somewhere. Some of the answers for Lost are really easy.
You can just decide for yourself, right?
Why is it there? Because it needs to be. It's got to be somewhere. What are they going to do? Stick it in a volcano? That doesn't seem like a great place to stick life. How about a magic island where the sick are healed and the jungle is dense and thick and there's plenty to eat? Nobody's starved.
Nope.
So that's one take of it. The other side of it, Ma, and this is where Lost gets super fun. Because the other side of this is the light isn't life. It's not the spark. It's not what keeps us going. The light is an electromagnetic phenomenon found on the Earth, much like the one found in the Bermuda Triangle. It is an anomaly of science, some crazy happening of some sort of thing in the cosmos that is perfectly reasonably explained through science if we could explain it through science. We're just not there yet. Isn't it? So this is something that Lost does so masterfully, is they were able to tell a deeply like spiritual story while also keeping it but it also could be science. It was really the big debate between Jack and Locke throughout the majority of the season, because Jack was considered the man of science while Locke was considered the man of faith. Locke wholeheartedly believed they were meant to be there because when he crashed, he could walk again.
Yes.
It was like the opposite.
And that's why he didn't want to leave, really.
It really,
he didn't want to leave.
It was like the opposite of what happens usually in a plane crash. This guy walked in a wheelchair, crashed, walked along the beach as if nothing had happened. If only we could all be so lucky. So he thought the entire time that they were meant to be there. That's why he was so drawn to opening this hatch. He's like, oh man, this is my manifest destiny as a human. He dreamt of being this survivalist. The reason he was so good at stuff is because he had armed himself with so much knowledge to go on a walkabout in Australia that he wasn't allowed to go on. Don't tell me what I can't do, he shouts. So the big debate, man of science, man of faith, all that sort of stuff. Jack, man of science, Locke, man of faith, believed he needed to be there, all kinds of stuff. Saw fate, saw destiny, had spiritual moments with the island, wasn't killed by the smoke monster because I looked right into the eye of the island and what I saw there was beautiful. Oh boy, he was kind of scary sometimes. He wanted to be special so badly.
Yeah.
That was his big drive, Locks. Oh, I didn't write Locke down here. I didn't write Locke on the list. That's why my numbers were weird.
The Locke's really important, actually.
There's like 8 main characters.
Right.
Goodness.
And the character of Jacob is interchangeable. Right?
So the character of Jacob was a heavily influential character, but I wouldn't call him even supporting I guess distantly supporting, because the legend of Jacob and what Jacob wanted was what was throughout the series, and we really didn't get to know the face of Jacob until 5 minutes before he died. And then we got a lot of flashback and history and all kinds of stuff with him in that final season, explaining everything. Establishing why the island exists, who these people are, what the greater ramifications are, and what the fallout is if we fail. Oh, look, they're using the GIF right now. There's Jacob. Hi.
Crazy.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. So we've answered all your questions then, right? You guys aren't confused about Lost anymore? I'm very happy to hear that. I am so beyond glad to know that I've cleared everything up about this wackadoodle show for you all.
It was a good show. I loved it.
It was a great show. It was a great show. Gosh, I don't know. I still don't know really how to structure this thing, Ma. I don't know. Do I need to watch more YouTube videos to figure out how it is that people talk about stuff?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
All I do for these shows is I try to rewatch a little bit of it to just sparks. Because this show has been off the air for a long time.
It's been off the air for so long, but it still remains one of my favorite shows of all time.
I think it always will be, man.
I think it will be too.
It's right there with Star Trek. In a way.
I could just revisit it forever, really. I think I watched it through to maybe 4 or 5 times, Lost. almost time for
Really?
another watch through. Yes. It's
Well,
time for
now
another watch through, really.
you can watch Lost from beginning to end so easily now.
You really can. You can find it on Hulu, I think. It's streaming, and it's a show that's made for streaming because this is such a bingeable show. It is
Yeah.
because like back in the day, you had to wait a week, and then you could just get to watch this whole thing through, and it's really good when you get to watch it back to back to back to back to back. They did a great job of linking everything together,
Well, it makes more sense.
and it makes more sense because you remember far more detail as the story
Yes.
progresses if you watch several episodes in a row. You can see how
Yes.
they've led up to things and where it's all going, and especially on the rewatch, they did a great job of foreshadowing things and events that they had no idea that they were going to write yet. So, kudos to them on their ability to make such an
And
amazing show.
and also on Lost, but ABC didn't spare any expense. They spent a lot of money on it.
Oh, they marketed the hell out
It
of the
looked
show.
awesome.
It was the cornerstone of ABC programming. They hung
It
all of
looked
their
so
hats on
awesome.
it, and people loved it. Millions of people loved it. It was on during the first writer's strike. That's
Really?
something. Oh, yes, yes.
Oh,
So the first writer's strike, it actually cut deeply into the third season, which kind of helped Lost in the long run. So the first few seasons, the first 3 or 4 seasons are full length, 22 episode long seasons.
actually, I was watching. I was looking at the different there was like 24 episodes in like 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Really?
mean, I can't even
And today it
point to a
was double
single
the
show.
episodes, right?
I can't point to a single show that does 22, 24 episodes a season anymore. Not even
Well,
sitcoms.
no, it's like that would be 2 seasons today,
Yeah, yeah.
almost,
So
right?
those first 2, 3 seasons, I think it was just the first 2 seasons, were 22, 24 episodes long. And when it came to a
By the
complex,
time they got to the last one, it was 18.
yeah. So, when you have such a complex and convoluted story, not only, well, I mean, one, it's great to have all of those episodes to start off with because you really get to, expose the plot. You get to do great exposition. You really get to know the characters, what they mean to each other, who they are, how they relate, who loves who hates who's missing who's gonna hurt who's getting a fight here. Oh, he's learning English. Go, Jen, go. You have a lot of space that you can go to travel with these characters. And then the writer's strike happened, and they were forced into having fewer episodes. In the third season, in which a lot of the fan base was like, okay, the hell is this show? What is it? Where is it going? What is it doing? I'm still very confused. We're 3 seasons deep. I don't know if I want to continue this ride, is what they said. So they actually hemorrhaged a lot of viewers in that third season. And
Probably a lot of shows did.
Yeah. So between some audience fatigue when it came to some of the pacing of the greater mysteries of the show, I'm never going to say that it wasn't excited and they weren't moving things forward and all that. But a lot of those questions that they presented early on in the show, they took the entire series to answer. What is the smoke monster? Who are the others? What is the Dharma Initiative and what were they up to? What happened to the Dharma Initiative? And then we get into all of these quests for spiritual answers by the end.
Mm-hmm.
So we were constantly moving forward, but took a long time to answer, where are we? What is this thing? Who are these people? And so there's several folks that were like, I'm done.
Lost got stuck in General Hospital for a minute.
Who got stuck in General Hospital?
Lost did.
Lost did? Who are these people? What's going on? Why is it happening? Right? We introduce these characters that we know and love in the first season. One or two of them gets killed off by the end. We open up the hatch and boom, what do we have? A heck of more characters. We've got a Desmond down at the bottom of the hatch. He's been there for years. Who is he? Why is he there? What's his big secret? And basically he gets discovered and it goes, great, you're here. You have to push this button every 90 minutes or the world's going to end. Peace.
Yeah.
And
what are the
tries to
numbers?
leave.
What are the numbers?
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42. The
Yes.
numbers that won Hurley his millions, the numbers that were etched on the hatch, the numbers that were the radio frequency of the tower that they were trying to send a distress call from. 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. Also the number of each of the candidates. that could have replaced Jacob as the protector of the island ultimately.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
okay, here we go. All right, this is going to be a fun topic to talk about. By the end of the show, we really get to know a lot about the lore of this island.
Hmm.
And this island has always had a protector, somebody who was there to protect the light of life.
Yes.
And with this came all kinds of fun abilities. Nothing like shooting laser beams from your hand or anything like that. But when it came to pulling the strings of fate, that's something that this person could do. He could manipulate the events of people's lives to draw them to the island. And he did this for generation after generation after generation, trying to find somebody who could replace him as the protector of the island. Because the man in black, the smoke monster, was one day, and he knew it, going to finally be able to fulfill his mission of getting rid of Jacob.
Hmm.
So that's even why all these people came to the island, because Jacob at some point decided that they were all candidates. They were all people who had absolutely nothing to lose in their real life. They were all came from
Testing them all at the same time.
They all came from broken, unhappy, terrible existences that they did not enjoy. Or at least most of the candidates did. A lot of these people that were living in the background were just normal people who were unfortunate and happened to be on the plane with these other people.
Right.
And they didn't make it to the end because the island didn't
So those
need them.
main people were
Candidates.
Yeah, they were candidates, but
candidates.
So they were Kate, for one.
Kate, well, here's the thing. There was all kinds of different things that you crossed off of this cave wall that they had set up. So Jacob had 360 names, I guess, written on the walls of people throughout time, throughout the generations that he brought to the island to see if they could be the one. And basically, it whittled down to the last surviving members of the cast. Yeah. Jin, Sun, Kate, Hurley, Jack, Saeed. Not Locke, because he was dead by the end. Huh? Not Ben, because he was a bad guy.
Because like Jack's dad said at the end, some died before you and some died after you.
So that's the big thing that we'll have to end the discussion on, because we got to put this to bed forever. Were they dead the whole time? The answer is no, and we'll get into why at the end. So when it comes down to, so 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42, the numbers of the show, they came up time and time again. They were the numbers of the candidates on the wall. And all kinds of different things could get them disqualified from being candidates. One, they die. Mm-hmm. But, the island is kind of testing these people, not really Jacob. The island is almost its own character.
Yeah.
It had kind of a will of its own,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember so well that there was, toward the end of the season, they had introduced the character named Ilana, who was connected to Jacob in some way, and she was a big part of returning the characters to the island when they left. She gathered them. She was on there. She had a team. She was working with Jacob. She had a gun. She knew what was going on, and they were gathering dynamite from the Black Pearl boat, because they were going to go blow something up to get inside of it to go save the day. And she had her bag. It was full of explosives. She gave a rousing speech. She told them that they were going to go get the bad guy. And then she put the bag down with authority and blew herself up. People were like, oh my gosh, whoa, what the heck? How come she's dead? This doesn't bode well for us. And all Ben had to say was, the island was done with her.
Yeah. You're
she had
right,
served a purpose.
The island itself was an entity in itself.
Yeah, it seemed as though it could test the people. It could put them up to a moment that meant something, but then that would be their last moment ultimately. Island didn't play any games when it came to life and death. When it was done with you, it was done with you. Oh my gosh. So they're candidates. All kinds of different things could disqualify you. Ultimately, they decided that Kate, Ma, wouldn't be a candidate because Kate became a mother.
She did.
Now here's the question, Mother. Here's the big question. This is a fun thing to talk about and theorize about, especially here in that last season. Kate raised Aaron, who was Claire's kid,
Yep.
but came back to the island to get Claire, bring her back to life, bring her back to the real world, and be like, you should reunite with your kid. It's not right for me to raise him. You're actually alive. I regret this. I'm so sorry. Let's fix this.
And she wasn't with Jack anymore when she was raising that baby.
She wasn't with Jack anymore when she was raising that baby. No, sure wasn't. So here's the fun part. Here's the fun thing. Remember Kate's kid in the afterlife?
No.
Gosh, you just watched a retrospective and the series finale.
I had to skip a lot of the last.
It's okay.
Well,
I'll reset
there's
it
a
for
lot, Matt. There's a lot.
you. I know there's so much. I know.
There's a lot.
So let me reset it for you then, super fast, super quick. Okay. So in the series seasons, this is going to lead us to the big closeout. So we're good here.
Her and Jack had a baby, huh?
So they never really said that on the show, but I think that's what happened. So here's the thing. The final season, they do flash sideways. Instead of flashbacks or flash forwards, they go flash sideways, which is basically at the end, we discover that we're watching these characters in limbo reunite with each other. So as a unit, they can cross over into the great beyond is what all of that is about. But in this, they interact with different versions of themselves. They come across familiar faces. It was a great tool for the show to be able to bring back familiar actors and kind of do a what if situation if they had some sort of crazy adventure in the real world rather than on the island. Like, it was a great tool for a new fun way of telling the story. And it really led to that fun emotional climax there at the end, that last hour of the series finale. Oh, so good. So good.
I liked it a lot, actually. I know a lot of people complained about it, but I liked it.
Yeah, I loved it. If you watch the show, going on the ride with these characters, if you were invested in their journeys and had a favorite one and was like, I just, invested, like if you cared, if you genuinely cared, if these people were happy, if they lived, if they died, Sawyer and Juliet will break your heart, like if all of that moves you, then the series finale is amazing. If you were watching it because it was this wackadoodle fantasy show about crazy happenstance things where people randomly die and there's an explosion and a hatch in the ground and why is there a polar bear on the island and all that kind of stuff, the ending isn't satisfying because it doesn't go out of its way to explain all of that at all. You kind of have to draw your own conclusions when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Hey, Basilini, welcome to the show. It's great. So I was talking about the end. I was talking about the flash sideways. I was talking about something specific, but we got off of it, so I don't remember what it was now. Oh, well. What are you going to throw shade about, Basilini? Go ahead. I hope it's about Lost.
We didn't watch GH today, so I won't do any good.
Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know. I was talking about something. I don't know. We got to figure out the cadence of this show. I'm happy that people are going on this ride with us as we suss it out and figure it out, because I don't really know how to handle a late night tonight. I got to be honest with you. Plus, energy is so different too. Like some weeks I'm like blah, and then other weeks I'm like not.
Actually, I find it a little bit harder for me to muster up the Sunday morning. I'm a little more viv.
Yeah. Maybe it's too late. Basilini watched 4 seasons, and then they gave up. Basilini, you gave up a little too early, because that 5th season, when they start jumping through time, is where it's at, man. that season really it changes everything. It takes it from being this.
I watched a little retrospective today.
Yeah.
And well, you can see that Cynthia Rotros is in the jungle there and not on Prospect.
Definitely deep into the jungles of Hawaii, having a great time filming a show. traipsing around for a second season and then not having to come back until the last season. But it's great though. So Cynthia Watros, she didn't have an opportunity to do many years on Lost. She just did that one season, the second season, before they killed off her character. It was tragic. It was sad. It was shocking and surprising. Go check it out on YouTube. She does a great job.
She does.
And got one episode after that too. So you get shot in one episode, and then has her death episode is the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets to play dying the whole time, and drops revelatory information about who done it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand. It's one of those AJ situations. But they don't understand, and she slips away, and it's tragic, and Hurley's hurt because he loved her and all that kind of stuff. But they bring her back in that final season for the Flash Sideways.
They do.
Because the love you've experienced on the island is the ultimate true love.
Yes.
And since they had fallen for each other, they got to be together at the end. So she got
they
Cynthia
they were together at the end.
Yeah, Cynthia Watros got to do the series finale. She got to do the church scene. Can ask her about that one day.
I hope so.
See, there we go. Bozzolini goes, I wanted answers. Well, Bozzolini, here's your chance. What was your biggest question? I've got an answer for you. I promise.
I tell you, Bozzolini, Matthew knows some Lost.
See, this is what we needed. We needed somebody. Really does. We needed somebody who had seen the show and was like, I want to know. I want to know this, that, and the other thing. That's how we're going to make this better next time. Bozzolini says, what's your interpretation of the end? I might have missed it. My interpretation of the end is, I loved it. It was so great and wonderful. So I think that the show was very clear in that conversation between Jack and Christian about the events of the show. And before I get deep into that, Ma, did you notice something about Shepard's dad's name, Jack's dad's name? His name is Christian Shepard. Isn't that interesting?
Must be a shepherd of Christians?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But it speaks to the the spiritual tone of the series throughout Christian Shepard. And he winds up being a shepherd. He shepherded their souls to the great beyond. He shepherded a lot of Jack's experience. Shepherded him into being the man that he is. And if it wasn't for Christian's influence on Jack's life, he might not have been the winning candidate to take over Jacob.
No, and as a father, before the plane crash, he wasn't great.
He wasn't great. Oh my gosh, though, Ma. Here's the fun thing. Wasn't great at all. Lost is so deep, we could do an independent podcast about the journeys of each one of these characters one by one. So, it's of my mind that Jack was responsible for Christian's death. And here's why. They did not get along.
No.
To the point where Jack was having trouble with surgery, I believe, and Christian stepped in. But Christian was drunk.
Yes.
And Jack couldn't have that anymore. His dad was spiraling, and now he was performing medicine drunk, and so Jack reported him, which sent his father in a downward spiral until he found AA. Christian's dad goes to AA. He cleans himself up. There is, from my recollection, some genuine effort from Christian's part in patching some of this relationship until Jack suspects that his wife is cheating. Finds some phone calls between his father and his wife. Assumes the worst of it. And then goes and beats his dad up at an AA meeting.
Man.
Of course, Christian and Jack's wife were not doing the doohickey. They were just being supportive of one another because Jack was having troubles, of course. But this incident sent Christian back to the bottle. Sent him to Australia, where he drank himself to death. Sending Jack to Australia to start this adventure.
To get his dad's body on the plane. To get his dad's body
on the plane and come to LA for the funeral. So, wow, isn't that something? So if you watch the show 2, 3, 4 times, like I have, You're able to put that kind of stuff together because those elements of the relationships are not blatantly spoken.
It makes Finn and Gregory look like common.
Yeah, right. Makes them look normal. Makes them look normal as heck. But if you watch the show 2 or 3 times, you can put all of that together because those flashbacks are not told in order.
No,
The plot beats that I just gave you of this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens isn't told like that. It's like
no, it's
it's
more like boom,
it's
boom,
like
boom, 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 boom.
Jack has to get his dad's body. Jack has a bad relationship with his father. Jack beats up his father when they're older. Jack reports his father for being drunk. Like it's just it's told all kinds of different stuff. So the interpretation at the end was all the stuff that happened on the island was gosh darn real. Christian said so himself. He said everything that's happened to you with these people is real. There was no question about it. Everything that happened in that flash sideways was not real. It was reminding them of their lives. It was reminding their souls of where they've been so they can come together and pass on. And like you had said earlier in the show, like Christian said, some died before you, some died long after you. But when it comes to an afterlife, when it comes to a limbo, that doesn't matter. Because you're all going to wind up there at the start of that timeline, no matter when you passed away from the original. That was my interpretation of the finale. Bozzolini also know what was the issue with the hole in the island. I assume you're talking about the hatch. The hatch was there to cover a electromagnetic pocket of energy and let it out little by little every 90 minutes to avoid a catastrophic explosion.
Which they did eventually have.
And Desmond had to turn the failsafe key. Stop it from happening. Why is this happening? Will it end the world if they don't touch the button? Kind of.
Well, in their world,
well, it would definitely,
but not the world.
Here's the thing: it basically would basically blow up the island, which is containing the light. And if you're not containing the light anymore, then it's just all bad. So in order to save the island, you have to push this button. Eventually, they don't push the button. Locke loses faith. He doesn't push the button. He prevents people from pushing the button. Things go awry. Things are shaken. Electromagnetism is pulling metal toward the center of the island. And Desmond has to jump in and turn this failsafe key to prevent it all from happening. What is the failsafe key, you ask, Ma? I heard you.
Yeah.
I believe the failsafe key was the nuclear bomb that Juliet was trying to blow up and didn't. All kinds of fun time travel shenanigans.
It was so convoluted, wasn't
It's super convoluted. But I believe that it was, see, again, the show also isn't told linearly. So I don't think that it was, I think that it was a nuclear bomb, because what happened in their time travel adventures, if you set off a nuke, then you're going to negate this energy. We're going to save the day. We're never going to come to the island. We're going to change the past. We're going to make it so it doesn't pull us from the sky, crashes down. We're going to live. We're not going to do this. We're going to change everything. And then they don't. But I think it was the bomb. He blew up the bomb. That's my theory. What was the issue with the hole in the ground? Like I said, he was trying to siphon off some of that energy so it didn't blow up. But then they had to blow up the energy before it blew up. All right, moving on. What was the issue? Oh, wait, no. What was the smoke monster? The smoke monster was the man in black. We talked about that at the top of the hour. I like that better than Purgatory, says Bozzolini. And I do too. Purgatory sucks. But no, everything happened on the island. They all crashed with the Destiny. They were pulled out from their sad existences to be given a chance to do something amazing. And sometimes they were able to do something amazing at the cost of their life.
Yeah, those main characters, for sure.
Oh, the magic hole that Jack fought in the finale, the hole with the light in it, the Cave of Wonders. So
Yeah.
before it all happened, before it all came about, there was some sort of ancient like Babylonian civilization or something that existed on the island. Like super ancient, like before Roman times. Like if you were to look at the clothing that
Before Jesus.
if you look at the clothing of like the Man in Black and Jacob in their flashback episode, they're like Romans. That's how old they are. So then that mother character is even older because she had been there for frickin' ever. Who was the first? Who knows? But it seemed as though there was some sort of really ancient civilization that either came about on the island or found the island. Maybe the first people to find the island. Who knows exactly? They don't tell you. But there is ruins and temples and all sorts of old time, like really ancient, old timey things that you can find on the island, including this hole that had a big plug in it, essentially.
Yeah. And remember the dial thing in the hole?
Yeah, the dial thing, and then they had the big like column that had the water, and then you pulled the bathtub drain, and all the water left the drain, and everybody was unhappy.
Yeah, and that was the plug that Jack put back in at the end.
He put back in to reactivate the light and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. What was that? That was it. That was the source. Who built it? I couldn't tell you, but I would say that people way back when had a much closer connection to like magic and the metaphysical world and how it may or may not impact the world that we live in today. You know, if all of that stuff is real, we are so far removed from it that we wouldn't even be able to recognize it anymore.
You know, if you talk to some folks that are from like other, you know, in like jungles and rainforest, and they believe in spiritual things that they say. I've talked to people about this for real. They say have been driven into that area that they can't no longer manifest in this developed area.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go into rainforest and just deep into undisturbed earth, that those entities are still there.
I bet that, you know, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
Like when I've talked to people about being like, you know, I've talked to people from other areas of the planet that I've never been to, where they are so superstitious. And I've asked people, where does superstition come from? And they said, from places that you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've never been in those regions of the world that are undisturbed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was told.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I wonder if there was all kinds of different superstitions on the island and Lost. But you know, but given that, you know, like people way back when, especially, you know, I mean, I come from a completely industrialized American point of view on a vast majority of things. So, you know, I'm even further removed from those sorts of stuff. So, you know, ancient civilizations coming across this light may have had a better understanding of how it works, what it means, how to work with it. Built a little shrine to it, helped it channel, maybe, you know, helped it channel its energy into a person, perhaps, like Mother, or Jacob, or Jack, or Hurley by the end. You know, I mean, there's all, when it comes down to it, there's no distinct, official, final answer to that.
No.
But people who knew.
Because nobody was really, really left behind there to guard the island, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
at the very end.
At the very end, it was Hurley. So Jack had passed away. Before Jack had passed away, he had given the power to Hurley, and Hurley's like, I'm gonna give it right back, but he can't because Jack's dead now. And so Hurley ultimately became the super protector of the island, the one that was there in the end. And once the adventure was over, he took the mantle and carried forward with Ben at his side.
But he was at the church too, though, right?
He was at the church because some died before you and some long after you. He didn't mean by 40 years. He could have meant by hundreds of years when it came to Hurley and Ben. But as we've seen on the show, even these ancient figures like the Man in Black and Mother and Jacob all met their end. So a definite theme of the show is we're all going to meet it at some point. All going to meet it at some point. Basilini says, also, I was mad when the Asian couple drowned. It was heart-wrenching. It was heartbreaking. That came about in the big sub finale. There was a big sub explosion. A bomb went off. Saeed sacrificed himself to save the lives of others, but as the water was rushing in, only a few of the characters were able to escape before it was too late. Sun and Jen met their demise there in the sub. Because Sun was trapped, wasn't able to get out, and Jen was like, I ain't ever leaving you again, okay? We spent 3 years apart.
We're never going to be separated again.
We spent 3 years apart. We crashed on this island together. You thought I was dead. You came back. We were reunited. Here we've been reunited for 48 hours, and now we're just going to die. Mm-hmm. We're going to die together. It was tragic. It was romantic. What was that?
They died like the Titanic.
They did. Like the old couple in the Titanic.
Yes, exactly.
He was never going to leave her again. It was sad. It was tragic. I get it. It was deeply romantic. It was the ultimate conclusion of their troubled love story that we experienced on the show. The major issue, though, you know what the major issue is in retrospective when it comes to that whole sequence of the characters that we lost in the sub?
What's that?
Is we lost Saeed, Sun, and Jen, which were 3 of the 4 remaining characters who were not white. By the end of it, we had Kate, Jack, Soya, white, and Hurley, who was Latino, could pass as white very easily. And that's something people have noticed and commented on.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure that if the final season of Lost were being done in 2024, it probably would have looked a little different.
Yeah. I mean, it was very diverse. So let's definitely give it the credit there.
It was
super, super diverse. But when it came down to it, like that's a legitimate, like real, like commentary and notice that some of the audiences made is when it whittled down to just those last characters who were presumably then the most important. Mm-hmm. It was a bunch of whiteys.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I have no idea how in today's market things would be affected or changed. I mean, we might. I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? Basilini concludes that one of Sun or Jen should have stuck around because they had a baby, and now the baby ain't got no parents.
Nope.
I remember thinking.
And they didn't show that that the baby would have any decent grandparents either.
No, you just have to assume that everything was okay in the end because by the time Sun went back to the island, she had put her dad in his place and had the money and was in control of the companies and all that kind of stuff. So you could presume that things got better.
Yeah, that's true.
You can presume it. I mean, there was no official stance made on it, but you can presume it.
That's true.
And that's it. That's our look at Lost, everybody. I hope you were entertained. I hope you were thrilled.
We liked
mesmerized.
It was. I remember sitting with my family and watching it more than I do the show, even though I love the show.
I mean, because
it's been a long time since you watched.
I mean, it was one of those shows where it was the end. It was at the end, and then while the credits were rolling, you just looked at the person you were watching it with and went, so. And then you talked about it.
Yeah.
Like those coffee, those water cooler shows and such. Like when it comes down to it, all the new exciting stuff that people like isn't on weekly. It's dropped all in one swoop. So there really isn't that time to digest it.
Just kind of do that a little differently, though. A lot of the streaming things are starting to drop things once a week.
Yeah, you're seeing a little bit here and there, a little bit of a change in the market. Generally speaking, Netflix is still dropping everything at once. But when it comes to like the weekly, like the network streamers,
Mhm.
yeah. They're a little more likely to do the once a week thing. Did you guys hate Nikki and Paolo? Says Bosley. They had the most fun send off episode. They're the
I
one.
don't remember.
They
Who is
they were
it?
they were they were characters that were there for very briefly. Um, they showed up in like the second or third season. I think it was the third season. They showed up in the third season. I'm gonna say, and the way that they had come on the show was as if they had just been there the whole time.
But they weren't others.
They weren't others. They were just other survivors from the plane crash that I guess
Were they
were.
from the tail end?
No. Well, I mean, I don't know if they had. I don't think so. They didn't start.
Remember in season 2, the
Mhm.
tail end and the front
Yeah,
end met each other?
yeah. I do remember that. No, they weren't in the tail end. We saw all of those tailies. They were just there. It's like they were the extras in the background, and then now they have lines. But the audience had never seen them before because they weren't the extras. They were just the random new characters that were there, that knew what had gone on, that were involved in the plot in some way, who would just kind of like had a conversation at one point saying, we need to be more involved, and so they started to get more involved, and it didn't work. But they had the most fun send off episode. It was the episode where they got bit by that spider that paralyzes people and they got buried alive.
I remember that.
You do?
I do.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, so they got bit by a spider that paralyzed them. So, as it turns out, they were jewel thieves, and they had diamonds on the island that they were trying to keep from each other because Paolo loved Nikki, but Nikki loved diamonds. So Paolo found the diamonds and he hid them, and then Nikki found out that he had hid them, and she was like, "What the heck?" And he's like, "What do you even need these for anymore? We crashed on a freaking island." She's like, "I don't care. I need them. You lied to me." Um, and she had it so these Medusa spiders, I think they were called, came around because they were attracted by a pheromone. So she released the pheromone, and these spiders came and they ate her. But then she got bit, and she stumbled into the camp, and Hurley and Sawyer found her. And the last thing that she said before getting paralyzed was, which they couldn't understand. She thought that he thought they thought she had said any number of things. Paolo lies. It was one of the examples. Any number of different things other than paralyzed. They wound up getting Paolo's body, Nikki's body. They think they're dead. Throw them in a ditch. Start burying them. Figured Nikki and Paolo had killed each other over these diamonds when they were just paralyzed, and well, I guess the island was
And
done
then
with
they
them at that
suffocated.
point.
They suffocated, huh?
And then they suffocated in sand, but we didn't see that. We just assumed that it happened. Hey, it's one of those things.
Gnarly, man.
Island had no more use for him. Well, thank you very much, Bosolini, for your visit and your contributions. It was good. It was good to be able to answer your questions. I liked it. It was a horrible way to go. You're right, Bosolini. But that's it. We're getting out of here. That was late night tonight. Send your suggestions on things we should talk about. Send your suggestions on how I should structure this thing so it's more entertaining. And I'll do it. I don't know, man. We need segments, headlines, notes. I don't know. You help me figure it out. You become the producer of Late Night Tonight, Ma.
Bye.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Thanks for coming, Bosolini. Thank you to anybody else that's been watching this. I saw a little line have been jumping here and there, to and fro. Some people coming on, being like, "Oh wow, they're monotone today," and leaving.
We'll see you on Monday. We'll see you on Sunday
We
morning,
will see you
y'all.
on Sunday mornings for 9 a.m. Days for Dummies, 11 a.m. 10th Floor Podcast.
Yep.
We'll see you on Sunday. Angela should be here, and if she's not, it's because she's running late, and we just moved on without her.
We'll have to talk about Paul. We'll have to talk about Paulina and Abe without her.
Paulina, Abe, Johnny, and of course all of that crazy criminal shenanigans and boning people, and then they roll over and they're like, "All right, you got to go," and then I can never see you again. All kinds of different fun stuff. can't keep my hands off of you. Get away from me. That's it. We'll see you on Sunday. I've been Matt.
I've been Kat.
And we'll catch you next time here on Late Night Tonight.